Welcome to The Unspoken Truth. I'm your host, Rob Russ.
And live from Minnesota, I'm Ed Anderson.
G'day, Ed. How we doing, mate?
Living the dream, Robbie. Always good to see you, man.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Great to see you as well. I got something that's a little bit shorter and a bit sharper. This is something that we talk about often, and you might have seen some footage coming out of Joe Biden in the last couple of days. It's ridiculous. I wanted to catch people up in case they haven't seen it, because it's worthwhile looking at, and it's worthwhile people knowing what's really going on behind the scenes in the White House, what the unspoken truth actually is. And you've got an election coming up in the United States in the next 18 months. So it's really important that people understand who the leading front runner for the Democratic Party is. So far, it's Joe Biden. He's the one that said he's running, and bad luck, I'm the incumbent. I get to do it again, but he's completely gone. And I've got a couple of videos that will show you that. And if you haven't seen these videos, they're quite funny, but they're not funny all at the same time, because this guy is completely lost it. My view is that he's going to be washed out of the race in the next couple of weeks, I would suggest, because it seems to be a complete and total mental decline from him. And the alternatives that are being presented there on the Democratic side, bar RFK, are pretty dismal. So when you look at RFK, a lot of what he talks about is not really Democratic policy. They're very Republican type policies, but I think it's pretty interesting that he will emerge as the front runner, but I don't think the Democrats will allow that. Gavin Newsom's going to step into that breach, but he's going to be shut down pretty quickly. What do you think, Ed? Here I am discussing something near and dear to your heart. I wanted to raise this with you because I think it's an important topic, and particularly if people haven't seen what's going on with Joe Biden, I think that's important. What do you think?
That's an interesting question, because remember, in the last election, the vote for Joe Biden was not a vote for Joe Biden. It was a vote against Trump, right? It was right. It was all about whether you wanted or didn't want Trump. It had nothing. Biden just happened to be the guy who happened to be on the ballot. These days, people don't vote their self-interest anymore. They vote their ideology. They vote for their tribe, right? And so I don't know. He might tough it out. Like I said, Biden is not the president, and he's not making decisions. Okay, this guy is not making any of these decisions. He is following. Every day he goes into the small ante room in front of his office, and people tell him what the day is going to be and what he's going to say, and these are the topics. He's not making any of these decisions. He's just the front man. So in that regard, it doesn't matter whether he's on life support going into the election, because
which I think he might be.
One could argue that the weaker the person is in office, the better, the more they like it, because that's the more control they would have over the person. The deep state, the bureaucracy, these are the people who make all the decisions. They run everything, and they don't want free-thinking people in the Oval Office. You never know, they might come up with policy that you don't happen to like. That's why they don't like RFK. Right? RFK, he's an independent thinker, and he is pretty much cookie cutter in philosophy to his Uncle Jack. John F. Kennedy. So RFK has not left the democratic principles. The Democratic Party has shifted away from their traditional values. The party has moved. He's right where the party used to be traditionally. So the party has gotten so far left that these are extremists at this point in the party, and so and they're very intolerant. They want people who are going to toe the line to the letter. No compromise, no veering away. No, you have a very militant agenda that you are expected to adhere to. So they're going to go for whoever is going to be the most controllable. I mean, Kamala fits that bill perfectly, for that matter. She has no real IQ to speak of, and so she'd be the perfect kind of person that the deep state would like. So just remember that it almost doesn't matter anymore who the president is, because the deep state runs everything. And unless you have a real clearing of that swamp, nothing is really going to change. And the odds of that happening are, that's difficult. And that's why, if Trump ends up being the front runner, it's going to be a very interesting election. They're going to throw, they might end up putting him in jail, but he might end up running for office from jail. Wouldn't that be exciting? So I don't know. I mean,
would I be right in saying, by summing up there, what, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but summing up by saying that no president is coming to save you. You know, that president is just a figurehead of government, but that person is not going to make a difference in your day-to-day life. The only person that can do that is you.
Yeah, that's right. Well said. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's take a little look at some of these videos. I think they're quite funny and they're very telling. And the reason I want you to see this, folks, is because I'm going to put a link in the video in the description down below here to a video that shows you America's response to a nuclear war. The video goes for a little bit, but there's some really great animations that show you what happens during a nuclear war. And in the event that the Russians use a nuclear weapon, what would our reactions be to something like that? And I think it's really important that you understand that and how the nuclear attack options that the United States have are really important, that the general public knows that. And hopefully this never happens, and hopefully this is something that never comes to pass. But this is the plan that is in play. And this is what will happen in the event that the Russians use a nuclear weapon. And the reason I want you to see that, and the reason I want you to see these Joe Biden things, and I'm joining those two dots for you, is because he's not in a fit mental state to make these decisions. So let's take a look. Okay, folks, the first video I want to share with you is Joe just yesterday in the Oval Office talking with another, I'm not entirely sure who the world leader is, but let's take a look and see if you can discern what Joe's actually saying.
Palestinians together at a political level, and Aqaba and Paul Schramm. Yes. And as I affirmed the Prime Minister.
Talking in his sleep?
It's almost not funny, man. Like, let me just play it again without the sound. Look at this other guy. He's like looking around saying to his minders, what is he saying? And the guy off camera there's going, just pretend like it. Just look, boss. Just look at him, sir. What's going on there, Ed? What do you think?
Affirmed the Prime Minister.
I think he's talking in his sleep.
He's literally asleep in the chair, eh? Let's look again. Tell me, is he asleep in the chair? I think he is.
We brought Israelis and Palestinians together at a political level, and Aqaba and Paul Schramm. Yes. And as I affirmed the.
Folks, I want you to look in the link in the description below at the nuclear attack options America has in the event that Russia uses a nuke. This is the person in charge that has to make a decision within 15 minutes of pressing a button and launching a retaliatory strike. So this is why it's important. This is why the leader of the party actually matters and the free world matters. Let me show you when he left NATO the other day. I'm not entirely sure if you saw this video, Ed, and what he did. So he's on the tarmac about to get on his plane. I'm not going to play the sound because all you can hear is the noise of the aircraft in the background. It's too noisy. But just watch his behavior here with this little child. The mother's holding the child. Yeah. Watch what he does to the child, and watch the father's reaction to it on completion of it. So here we go. That is very, very, very strange behavior. Yeah, good luck, old man. Yeah, thanks, mate. Get out of here. It's like some of the strangest behavior that I've ever seen ever by anybody in the world. Like, it is very, very strange, man. What's going on here?
Oh, that's a thing. Creepy.
Yeah, it's very strange. All right, so let's.
And stuff like that. You can tell it comes natural to him. He thinks that's normal. He thinks that's normal behavior, right? When you think the cameras are off and people aren't looking, that's when you behave. That's natural. He's got a history of doing that stuff. This is a creepy old guy.
It's awful, isn't it? Well, just watch this dad's reaction just one more time. Like, he thinks it's a little bit funny at first, but then it's not funny. It's not funny.
No.
He's nodding at the Secret Service guys like, yeah, like,
wouldn't it be so cool to see him belt him?
Yeah, imagine if he just smacked him in the head.
Yeah. What the hell,
Emmanuel Macron's been slapped a couple of times. Have you ever seen that?
No, never have.
I'll find those videos for you. It's funny as hell. All right, I got a couple more videos here for you. Let me show you a more coherent Joe Biden, and this is what he has to say when he's in public and he's actually awake.
Primary from a campaign that's about negative attacks into one about what we're for, because we cannot get reelect. We cannot win this reelection. Excuse me. We can only reelect Donald Trump.
We cannot win this re-election, and we can only re-elect on. Yeah, again, ready in case you missed it.
He just made Donald Trump's next campaign video.
Ready?
We cannot get reelect. We cannot.
He's saying we cannot get re-elect. We can't get re-elected.
Win this reelection. Excuse me. We can only reelect Donald Trump.
It got worse.
People in the crowd are just laughing at him.
He tried to correct himself and said the exact same thing. Look, yeah, go ahead. This is
all right. I got one more in case people missed it with Mike Pence and Tucker Carlson. I couldn't not play this video. I want people to see it just in case they haven't seen it. So this is at a Republican event just a couple of days ago. Tucker was on stage for like 6 hours interviewing all the Republican candidates, and he was giving it to them. And if you haven't seen this video with the Vice President Mike Pence, who's also thrown his hat into the ring to be the president, this is pretty interesting.
You are distressed that the Ukrainians don't have enough American tanks. Every city in the United States has become much worse over the past 3 years. Yeah. Drive around. There's not one city that's gotten better in the United States. And it's visible. Our economy has degraded. The suicide rate has jumped. Public filth and disorder and crime have exponentially increased. And yet your concern is that the Ukrainians, a country most people can't find on a map, who've received tens of billions of U.S. tax dollars, don't have enough tanks. I think it's a fair question to ask, like, where's the concern for the United States in that?
Well, it's not my concern. Tucker, I've heard that routine from you before.
What do you mean it's not my concern?
you know.
There is no statement that you can put out there that can excuse that and to make that okay. Like there's you can't walk that statement back, no matter how hard you try. And he tried to walk it back by saying that them not receiving tanks is not my concern. That's how he tried to you misunderstood what I said. No, man, that's not actually what you were talking about. That's not true.
Well, you and I are news junkies. We love this kind of thing. This is our form of entertainment, right?
Yeah, it is.
but for a lot of people, they find this kind of subject dry. But I would encourage you guys, if you wanted to see a real study in how you take down presidential candidates, watch that day. And Tucker spent like 6 hours. In the course of about 4 hours, he single-handedly destroyed the campaigns of about 4 different presidential candidates. They're gone,
Yeah. Well, what's the point? Yeah.
And he wasn't particularly trying to be a kingslayer. He was just asking questions that were obvious questions that these guys are not used to getting. Hard questions. And that's the thing with when you start, having these gatherings. These, and the politicians of your particular group, they're the rock stars, and they're treated with kick gloves by the media. You're not doing them any favors. You want to ask them the tough questions and give them a chance to differentiate themselves from the other candidates. And that's so Tucker didn't do anything really controversial there, other than asking obvious questions that other, reporters won't.
Well, he's asking the questions that you and I care about. Like, why on earth? I saw a funny meme on Twitter just before we kicked off here. That's that picture of the mother is helping the child into the pool, and meanwhile the other child is like drowning, they're drowning like that. And it's a picture of Anthony Albanese pulling Volodymyr Zelensky into the pool while Australia is drowning. And politicians are so out of touch. They think that they know what's actually going on in their communities, but I always come back to this very point. When was the last time you saw one? When was the last time you saw your local senator or your House of Representatives member? When was the last time you saw the member for Cook or or the New South Wales representative where you live? The answer is like never. I never see these politicians in this community. I have no idea what they're doing. And they would say, oh, I'm busy working. Well, maybe you're busy working and you're doing legislative things that you do, but you're doing that on behalf of your constituents, and you pretend like you're acting on behalf of the constituents, but you're so far out of touch. You have no idea what normal people go through, but you're pretending to represent us. And that was a classic example of that. I think Tucker did a good job with Nikki Haley as well. And when I look at the alternatives that are there, they just don't seem very promising. I remember, tell me what you think about this, Ed, when RFK first came on the scene and said that he was going to run, everyone was like, he's got no chance, he's got no chance. And he said, hold on a minute, everybody thinks that I've got no chance, but I believe that this election will be won via podcasts, because in a long-form conversation, you'll really get to know who somebody is, and I can reach literally hundreds of millions of people doing the same thing. And you know, that has actually been true on Joe Rogan, on Patrick Bet-David, on all of the main podcasts that are out there. RFK has gone out there and done that, and he's reached hundreds and hundreds of millions of people with his message worldwide, not just in the United States. And that's far in excess of anything Nikki Haley could ever do. And Mike Pence would never go on Joe Rogan's podcast because Joe Rogan just wouldn't have him on the show. Joe's the one who decides who comes on the show. And if he wants to see something that's a little bit different, something a little bit more exciting, some fresh ideas or something like that, he's certainly not going to ask Mike Pence on the show, for heaven's sake. Is he going to ask Donald Trump on the show? Everybody's saying, well, you know, he was at the UFC and he was shaking hands with Donald Trump and he was seeing all that. Is that actually going to happen? Well, that's possible. I don't know. What I do know is that the way that people select a politician is very different to what it was in the last election cycle. And I think the same is true here in Australia as it is there in the United States too.
Well, all you keep in mind, it really comes down to that little sliver in the middle. Most people have already made up their minds and they're not going to change. So it really just comes down to, I don't know what the exact number is, but it's got to be like no more than 5 or 6% of the populace.
It's very small, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very small sliver. So whenever you see the messaging going on, remember who these politicians are talking to. They're trying to convince that sliver. And so
who was Mike Pence trying to convince? Nobody. He polarized everybody. Everybody on both sides were like, what? What do you mean it's not your concern?
You know, how quickly they fall, right? You know,
it takes him a whole lifetime to build his reputation. And in 2 words or 3 words, not my concern, that was it. It was gone. His whole life's work is just over.
Yeah, it's...
You know what I call it?
I will say, though, as far as politicians not having a chance, you know, political history is replete with people who at the beginning of the election cycle had no chance, but then they ended up becoming president, right? That's kind of the way things work. So the election is so far away that anything could happen, right? So yeah, even the small guy, you know, that Vivek Swami, whatever his name is.
Yeah, he's awesome, that dude. He's really cool.
He's awesome. You know, he might catch on. You know, a few key events, a few key circumstances, could put him on. So, you know, you never know what's going to transpire over the course of 18 months. That's going to lead you to the Oval Room. But
you know who else is going to throw their hat in the ring?
Trying to think. You're probably going to catch me on this. Tom Cruise.
No, Tulsi.
Who? Tulsi?
Tulsi. Yeah, Tulsi's going to throw a hat in the ring.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, because she said previously, nah, I had enough of that. Not doing that anymore. And I saw an interview with her yesterday. It was like 2 hours after it come out on Fox or whatever it was. And, you know, are you considering it? She's like, yeah, I'd consider it. If it was the right match and she was aligned with the right people, then she'd consider it. And then when you think of that, it's like, well, imagine an RFK and a Tulsi ticket. That's a pretty compelling argument. You know, is she going to go and work with Donald Trump? I doubt it. You know, I don't think she's going to hitch a wagon to that horse. I don't think that's going to happen. But it's pretty interesting.
Well, the problem that RK has and Tulsi is the media. You know, they're not going to give them any free advertisements. They're not going to help them at all. You know, so you know, and it's really hard for a Democrat. Now, Republicans never get help from the media, so they're kind of used to it. But Democrats, they're used to having, you know, some help, a lot of help from the media. So if the media is not going to be on your side, and you're a Democrat, you're not. It's going to be almost impossible. You're going to have to find a way to break through. You're going to have to do things like go on podcasts, like RFK is doing, and bypass the media to reach people.
Man, it takes a huge amount of effort to get your name out there in the public sphere like that, and very, very difficult.
Did you see RFK lifting those weights?
Yeah.
Pretty fucking impressive.
Not bad for an old bloke, eh? He's like 69 or something, isn't he?
Yeah, something like that. And you can tell, like those last 4 that he did. He's
really trying.
Right. He was really grinding it out. That's very impressive.
I saw there's a good interview with him and his missus and Russell Brand. And Russell asked his missus, like, what's she like? And he said, he's really disciplined with that. He's always starting his day, he's always moving, he's always doing some sort of physical activity and whatnot. And then the juxtaposition is of Joe Biden, like shuffling along on the beach with no shirt on, like flopping down. It's like unbelievable, man. It's crazy the world that we live in, and it's crazy what's happening in American politics. Ed, I want to say thank you for allowing me the opportunity to have that discussion with you. It's something that seems to be very public and very vocal here in Australia. I don't know why American politics is such a popular thing here on YouTube. Maybe it's the algorithm that I see, but people talk about it a lot. It's pretty interesting. So, see what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps it up for another show. Make sure you're coming along and follow us on Telegram and Twitter. Don't forget to get the podcast in your ears as well. And if you've got any questions, pop them down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Any closing remarks, Ed, before we wrap this one up, mate?
God save the Queen.
God save the gold. See you, mate.